We've laid out our monocoat just to make sure we're got enough here. Just so you know, there's actually a silicone piece that needs to be pulled back. It will glue to this and you will iron it on, but it can pull back. So make sure you take that protective film off and just pull it back before you lay it down and put the glue on it. I decided to put some carbon fiber tubes in here. This will kind of help for the wind flutter. You know, when you get up high speeds, you got such a big air mass. And I put another one here right to kind of reinforce the motors from the back end. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and spray the whole thing with the Super 77 adhesive spray, get it all lined up. I've kind of, as you can see, I've kind of marked all my corners just so that you can see that everything's all lined up, and make sure to line up all your marks as you're putting the plane back on there. So good idea to do that, then that way you don't get it messed up. Right down here, so I sprayed half of the airplane. I sprayed from the servos inward. I didn't spray the outside, and I'll explain why. When you lay this down, you're going to be laying it upside down. So just like I said, line up your lines here like we were showing earlier. Just line that up, get that as close as you can. And because when you do this, you've got to get this kind of set in place, and if you do have some runs, you want to be able to kind of pull it up. So get that part done first. Flip your plane over. You can kind of start pressing and ironing that out. And it's a good idea to do just that at a time. Then you can come over here and you can always spray this later. But at least get some of your wrinkles ironed out, at least get it pressed out a little bit. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll do the tips here in a minute. Okay, we're gonna now go ahead. We've got it kind of laid out a little bit, but as you can see, there's a few little wrinkles, and this stuff's designed to shrink, so be careful when you're applying it. Just massage it from the middle out. There's a big wrinkle right here. The heat gun may not take it out, but we can probably get that out with the iron, because it helps flatten it and stretch it out. But just kind of go over it with the heat gun. As you can see, I didn't do this part yet, and that's a good thing because it just makes it more area to try to work in. So just gonna work this for a few minutes and we'll come back in a sec. Okay, that side's done. We've got it all pretty much ironed out. There are a couple little wrinkles in here. It's kind of normal when you're doing this, but when you put all your servos and all your wiring and batteries and stuff in, you won't even see that. But so we're gonna trim this all up around the airplane, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom side, and then we'll seam it right on the edge, and I'll show you guys how to do that when we get to that point. Now we're going to start working on the bottom. Get that cut off. We're going to go through, and what I did is I've sprayed all the edges here all the way around the whole airplane with the Super 77. It has, and what we're going to do is just go ahead and start rolling this stuff up. Just do it all by hand, and then you can iron it out later, but just at least kind of get it all positioned. So go through the whole plane and kind of pull the edges up, just kind of hold it in place. As you start to work on it, you can adjust it later, but at least get everything set up. So it'll kind of look something like that. And then we'll just go through and iron it out. And you got to get that all sealed up first, all the corners, before you can get it with iron. Otherwise it'll stretch. So you want to make sure you do that first. Alrighty, now this one is done. So we've basically went all the way around the edges, sealed them up. You have to do sealing it. You have to seal the edges before you can iron out the top part. But we're not going to iron that yet. I usually like to iron at the very last once the bottom's all done. So now that we have that all done, we'll go ahead and lay our green out and get that one all set up. So here we are again. We've got the top part completely done, and we've put the green part on the bottom. So I'm going to flip it over just so you can kind of see it. It's all laid out, kind of pressed out. There's still a couple little wrinkles, but basically this is how we're going to do it. We've basically glued everything down, and we went all around the whole side just like on the other side, and then we'll bring it up and just kind of seal it, and then we'll take our X-Acto knife and just cut along the edge, just to kind of trim it up. Then we'll take some plastic wrapping, box wrapping paper, and put it right on the edges, on the trailing edge all the way around the front half, and then the back we'll just kind of bring it up and seam it right in the back, and it'll be all covered. And that's about it. The last step on covering the airplane, what I've done here is just a little packing tape. I like to use it on the trailing edges right here. So what I like to do is just set it like that and go almost the entire length of the front of the plane, and that way it kind of helps two things. It helps your wind deflection, plus if you can see that where I seamed it, it just helps keep everything together. So go ahead and just wrap that down like so, and then the last step, and then the covering's completely done. Now that we've got everything sealed, you can take your heat gun on medium heat and start ironing out some of these wrinkles. Like I said before, you want to make sure you do this last, because it will shrink, and as it shrinks you don't want it to pull away, so you got to make sure all your edges are sealed, and just kind of go over the plane for 5 minutes or so, kind of iron out everything, and then you're all done. I'm going to go ahead and start putting it back together. What we got here is just kind of a list of some tools just to put on our hinges here. This, you're going to need to cut your rod, scissors for cut your hinge tape. This right here is kind of a cool little tool. You can get it at any hobby store. I think actually Great Plains makes this one. So and basically we use it to cut our rods. Some needle nose pliers, some hinge tape. You can get this, just this regular 3M hinge tape. I like it a lot. You use it for the putting on your flaps, the screwdrivers, marker, and a little pick. What we've done over here is we've already set this one up, so you can kind of get an idea how it's already moving. We just connected it to the servo through the little horn, which is right here, and we just got little bits right there. It's kind of hard to see, but and we just used hinge tape to hold this on, and if you look, got a pretty good throw with just hinge tape. So we're going to kind of show you how we do this part. I always like to get everything laid out first, get it hooked up with just maybe an extra servo horn, get it all lined up straight. Nothing's hooked up right now, but I've got everything wired, so the rod does move. It's just not hooked up to anything yet. So we'll kind of show you how we do that, tape it on, get that all positioned up. I wanted to show you something here. We taped it so we have really good throw this way, but you'll notice it doesn't allow it to go down. This is kind of important to, as you're setting this up, you want to test your throw this way and this way. It's really nice this way, but like I said, we've got that set into place, so it's pretty tight. It doesn't like to come off. So just be very careful when you take it off, because you do have to take it off and redo it. Because if you don't get this bottom angle to throw like that with it working freely, what's going to happen is you're going to pressure your servo, and your servo is going to end up failing in flight. So you want to make sure that you redo that so that you get throw both ways, because you're going to also have to tape the bottom too. So and I'll show you how to do that as well, but basically just make sure that as you're setting this up that you have enough leeway in your tape so that you can throw it both ways. Very important.